Hi, Professor. Before starting the presentation, let me introduce myself first. My name is Parul Sharma and I'm doing Masters in Business Analytics at the University of Exeter. Today, I'm here to present my views on the visualization topic chosen by me. Let me start the presentation now. First of all, it is important to know what is visualization. Visualization is a technique to create graphics using data and designs to convey a message to the audience and helps in good connectivity with the user's mind. A good chart is made to make an effective way for communication using the data. Firstly, you'll ask, why is there a need of visualization? To answer this, I say, as our brain works on cognitive load theory, which means that the amount of working memory someone uses when they take in new information should be retained sufficiently to transit it before going into their long-term memory. When any user look at any data visual, their brain abstracts the knowledge from it and try to make a meaning of it. It can be well understood by the heading itself, but to be clearer, visuals with the data are understood to be more meaningful. It helps people understand the data quickly by just having a look at the graph without going into detail of the data behind the visual. Visualization helps in figuring out what is happening in the story or the article. Now in this slide, important questions are discussed. Some of the key aspects that should be kept in mind before making any designs are the purpose. Every visual should convey a meaning. So before making any visual, it is important to know what message we are going to convey. That said, problem statement should be identified before creating any visual. Also, the target audience that is going to get benefit from the visual should be considered while designing. It is very important to know who is the end user and how will it be benefited by the visual. In this case, it is the urban news readers who will be getting benefits. We'll talk about that in the next slide. What message should get delivered? Clear message. Clear message should be conveyed via graphics. If there is a cluttered information, an audience cannot derive anything meaningful from the visual, then it will make no sense in confusing the audience. And so this is where I will want most of your attention, please, as this is the visualization I have chosen to critique. To give you a brief summary in 2 lines about the topic, this visualization right here is depicting Uber's eventual growth in the year 2015, because when Uber entered the market with advanced technology, many of the users' problems got reduced, like waiting for the yellow and borrow taxis. Directions were well known this time using the maps. Price surge could be checked beforehand. With easy application on your smartphones, Uber was one click away at your service. This is exactly the reason why the designer has tried to present the graph before the audience to show how Uber is capturing already established local taxi businesses. So the visual I have selected is a stacked bar graph from the article published in The Economist, and it represents about how Uber captured the already established local taxi business in New York City. The main aim of this visual is to depict the rise of Uber's ride share against the yellow taxis and borrow taxis. Additionally, at the same time, the visualization is also comparing the given above aspects with regards to the central business district and rest of the New York City. Ideally, if you think of it, this is too much of information to be processed in a single graph, and hence was an absolute ideal reason for me to choose it for critiquing. The audience have to go through the whole article time and again to understand what is explained inside the visual. Reason being, it could have been simpler, but the designer have chosen included many attributes into the single visual. Moving on, to understand strongly and diving deep into the visualizations, when we look at this graph, we can easily analyze from the audience perspective that there is too much surrounding information and out loudly visible that Tuftay's theory fits spot on here. It will become more clear when step by step Tuftay's validation is applied to it. Number 1, and the most important one, data ink ratio should be maximized. Here in this graph, the colors used are more than that are required to fulfill the need of explaining it to the audience. The background do not require any color and don't really add any value to the graphics. White lines can also be removed so as to make the graph look simpler. Graphical integrity, meaning that the graphics used must convey the correct message you want delivered to the audience. Here in the graph, the title does not provide clear picture of what this graph is all about and what message it conveys. It says WhatsApp. The heading is WhatsApp. which clearly shows nothing. Y-axis scale do not provide any information about the dimension scale taken for measuring it. Chart junks. The unnecessary visual in the chart distract the user from the original information, like the legend colors are not in sync with the colors used in the graph, labels are not used properly, unnecessary text can be removed from the visual. Life factor. As per the graph, the uber color, that is, the navy blue used above the yellow color to denote Uber is pretty much just present there in all the bars, is irrelevant and just confuses the audience about Uber's business. Also, if we talk about Norman's four fundamental principles, we can see that two of the most important ones are not considered while designing the visualization I chose, and they are people-centered, and the last one here, small and simple interventions. So people-centered, the graph should be human-centric and should be able to convey the message to all the people, irrespective of the target audience. But it is visible in the visualization chosen that it is not the human-centered one. The common people are not able to take the message clearly by looking at the graphics. And small and simple, the graph could have been simpler by not using too many attributes in a single design. Rather, the designer could have chosen two graphs to make it easy and simple. Here, in a 2D graph, the designer tried to include three attributes in a single visual, making it all the more confusing. And that was pretty much about the theories part. Moving on to strengths, as I say, abstraction of data is taken correctly from a reliable source, is founding strength of any good visualization. Bar chart color choices to some extent only if we see yellow and blue are meeting the criteria. Also for multiple attributes, comparison stacked bar graphs is always a good choice in general over pie charts. I wouldn't want to go through the weakness again as they were previously discussed during the Norman and Tuftay's theory in the slide before. And now for the final recommendation part, I have tried to present the graph in two simple bar charts instead of stacked bar charts and with the clear message, making things simple for anyone to understand. Topic heading is clear about the visual represented. Data to ink ratio is maximized. The updated chart demonstrates that combining the two data series was absolutely unnecessary. Legends are now placed in the right direction. Scaling is done properly on the y-axis. Y-axis also depicts what it's about now. Irrelevant text has been eliminated. Proper labels are used. Proper coloring is used by taking the hue color selection palette. Lastly, signing off this presentation in the word of a famous author, Sir Donald A. Norman, and I quote unquote, anytime you see signs or labels added to a device, it is an indication of bad design. A simple lock should not require instructions. Thank you.